Hey guys, welcome to Patriot Muscle Health, where it's easy to define health by looking at someone physically, but it also takes mental strength, emotional strength, and spiritual strength. So today I have with us Tim Andrew, and he is running for School Board District 6, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his platform and his background and what inspired him to run for such an office. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tim.
Sure. So again, I'm Tim Andrew. I'm running for the Guilford County School Board District 6. So a little background on me. I am a retired Marine Corps officer. The Marine Corps actually brought us here to Greensboro. I was responsible for training reservists here from 2005 to 2008. Once we got here, my wife said, "This is a nice place, so we'll stay here." And I did my last 2 years independently in Camp Lejeune and retired here after 26 years. When we got here, my son had just turned 3. So his entire schooling has been with Guilford County School. He started in kindergarten and started at Southwest and graduated from Southwest High School in 2022. Educationally, I have a master's of business administration from East Carolina. I have an undergrad and graduate certificate in information systems. And I am also a certified project manager from the Project Management Institute. So I have a variety of backgrounds. When I was in the Marine Corps on active duty, I was an electronic maintenance officer. So I have a background in coordinating and maintaining maintenance management to make sure that our equipment is at the proper availability level so we can complete our mission. During the pandemic, I have a stepdaughter who's a nurse, and her daughter, couldn't go to school because the schools were closed. And with her mother being a nurse, nurses were frontline workers. They had to go to work. So my wife became a 5th grade teacher. So, doing, grandma Zoom lessons and things like that. And, I was working from home. So as I'd go downstairs to get a cup of coffee and kind of listen in on what's going on, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. And I was curious. And it sort of took us over the edge of wanting to do something. As you know, I work at the gym. I'm there, been part of that gym for about 16 years now. And I have a lot of friends who are teachers. They come in, they work out, and they go to school. So over the years, I've heard of the challenges that teachers have, the experience they have. And, we've done different things to help. My wife and I have always been supportive of teachers. We volunteered in schools, donated time financially, things like that. So the combination of hearing what they went through and then experiencing the classroom remotely, and then being a part of my son's schooling, we said, why not now? Why not us? Why not now? My son's in college now. I have the time, I have the skill set. There's obviously a need for it, especially as we started digging in and paying more attention to school board meetings. And this is a year where 5 school board seats are open, 2, 4, 6, 8, and at large. So to make a difference on the school board, it takes more than one seat, because an individual school board member does not have authority. The school board as a collective group has to make decisions. So if you want to make change in a school board, you have to flip the board. And when you look at school board meetings, you can pretty much tell based on what is being voted on, there's going to be a 7-2 vote. And it should not be like that. There needs to be more balance on the board. So that's why we are running collectively. I'm running with other members, and we are sharing resources. We were sharing research. And I think it's a good idea that we're starting off this campaign working collaboratively, because these are the things that we need to do once we get on the board. Because an individual board member, again, can't do a whole lot by himself or herself, but as a group, or be able to persuade others to come to our thinking or why we want to do certain things. That's the way we're going to make change. So that's why I'm running as part of the New Vision, New Direction team. And, I have a primary. So we're looking forward to seeing the results of the primary next Tuesday, and then hopefully moving on to the general election in November.
What do you see as the biggest issue in the schools right now?
So the Guilford County Schools needs to be focused on education.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at data and realize that we're not doing a great job educating our children. The test scores have been not great even before COVID. COVID exposed a lot of stuff, and COVID definitely stressed out the school system, no doubt about it. Teachers, students, parents, the whole system. But even if we take COVID off the table, we'll see that our test scores haven't been great. And I believe that we need to get back to the fundamentals of educating our children. Interestingly enough, a few years ago, there was a board meeting where they brought in, a board retreat where they brought in a consultant, and the consultant was giving him advice on how to run board meetings. And this consultant said that the board should spend more time focused on student outcomes and really bringing that to light, because that should be their focus. Mm-hmm. The consultant obviously got paid to give that advice, but I don't see a whole lot of that just yet. So that's one thing I'd like to bring. The other thing that I'm interested in bringing is fiscal discipline. Guilford County Schools passed all of their financial audits, and that's wonderful, because that shows that they have money in and you can track the money out. What I'm interested in seeing is what things are spent on. As a project manager, we have planned and actuals. We always are balancing our plan versus actual. If I plan to spend X amount of money on this category, did I actually spend that money on that category? And if not, why not? Mm-hmm. And if you look at a school board meeting, there's a lot of money moving all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for the average person to see where it's going and why it's going. And these are things that, the public should be informed so they have confidence that these fiscal decisions are being made to the best interest of the children. And that's not always the case. I'm not saying that all these decisions are wrong, but it needs to be, explained a bit better. So, for example, maintenance money was reallocated to Penn Griffin to build a recording studio. But on the same hand, we also have lots of maintenance problems. This bond that's on the ballot, you've seen the pictures of broken toilets and all the rest of that stuff. So that's a curious decision of why are things like that being moved around. So again, more accountability, more focus on education and educational outcomes.
I asked you, do you know how much that recording studio was?
Please don't quote me on this. I believe it was about $750,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. But there's a few board meetings. All of the board meetings are on YouTube. You can look back and find them. I can send you the link. But that was just one example off the top of my head. And there are other amounts of money that are moved around in ways that will lead you to question on what is the decision behind it. And ultimately, the board has the final authority. The school board hires a superintendent. The superintendent is responsible for, the day-to-day administrative running of the school system, but it's the board that has the ultimate authority. So these are things that, we need to know why these things are being moved around. Yes, the superintendent does have his or her authority to do things, but we need to know why.
Well, I was looking back at some of the things that they spent money on. And during 2020, they spent $400,000 renovating the administrative offices.
Yeah.
Saying that didn't need to be done. But, when you have kids that sit in classrooms with coats on because, it hasn't been cold enough for a number of consecutive days, that creates a poor learning environment when a student is cold and then you're asking them to learn. If you don't have, like Chrissy said in our last video, if you don't have your hierarchy needs met, you're cold, you're hungry, you're not going to be able to perform. And they graduated 91% of students last year, but only 8% were proficient in math. And, as a teacher at Guilford Tech, I see the product of Guilford County Schools. And this is why I'm so concerned, as a teacher foremost, before running for office myself, is that, we've got to get people into positions that really care about the future of our children. What are you saying to that child if they are illiterate when they graduate? They're not going to be able to go to the next advanced education system because they aren't prepared before they come in.
Right.
And so, you've already tarnished their dreams of being whatever they want to be because they don't even have the foundation to succeed in some of these other classes after graduation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tenet that we believe as in the Marine Corps as officers, we have this saying that officers eat last, and it seems to be a trivial thing, but the principle behind it is when you're the one in charge, your job is to make sure that those who work for you have what they need. So when the chow line comes around, the officers eat last. So I mean, if there isn't enough, then you miss out instead of the private or the lance corporal. So these are kind of things that redoing the board room in a fiscally austere environment, doesn't have a good look. I'll just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Especially, when there are issues with heating and air, leaking ceilings, just like what you said, safety going on in the schools. Those are the things that needed to be addressed, especially with the one card. Can you address any of the information about how much money that they get from this lottery? And also the $300 million that they got, where that money went to? Is that what you were alluding to with the recording studio, or was that something that was in the budget for the $1.7 billion bond?
It's completely separate. So let's talk about the $300 million. So in 2020, the $300 million bond was passed, and there's certain projects that money's allocated for. As of now, when I looked at the website earlier today, 24.8 million of the 300 has been put under contract, primarily for design work. Mm-hmm. There's still more bonds to be issued, and I'll use District 6. So there's to be a Southwest K through 8 school being built with that 300 among the projects of the $300 million bond. They've budgeted 56-ish million for this new K through 8 school. However, land hasn't been acquired yet, so it's just still design work, although this school is supposed to be ready and enrolling students in the fall of 2024.
They don't have the land yet?
Correct, as of today. Now,
wow, okay.
On the website, it says that, everything's subject to change, and, we're not responsible for the accuracy of this information. Please check back off and things like that. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I'm not a construction person, but 24.8 million just for design work seems to be a lot.
That's a waste.
It could be right. I don't know. But these are things that I wish there'd be more openness on it, because again, it could be a very accurate number, but to the layman, it just sounds like, wow, that's a lot of money just for design work. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that's going. So that's the 300 million. The $1.7 billion bond that's on the ballot next week, its intent is to renovate 13 schools, rebuild 18 schools, and build 3 new schools. And you basically pretty much touch most of them with upgrades and things like that. Mm-hmm. Going along with that, there's a quarter-cent sales tax on the ballot to help pay for it. The quarter-cent sales tax is supposed to bring in about $22 million a year. And interestingly enough, as you look at the charts, the first few years of if the sales tax passes, that money will be a surplus, where they're saying that it's going to be extra money. We're going to put it away. We're not going to spend it on anything else. And it'll be for the bond. So, we have to kind of take their word for it that they're actually going to not touch it. In addition to that, the High Point Enterprise on the 6th mentioned that what's the High
Point Enterprise?
High Point Enterprise newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm quoting a newspaper. Anyway, so we've got the quarter-cent sales tax if it passes, and that'll bring in $22 million a year to service this bond debt through, I think, the year 2038. Then we're going to need more money on top of that to service the debt to about $30-ish million a year through 2038, which will be property taxes. So you need about $50 million a year through 2038 to cover this bond that we're getting ready to put on the ballot. The schools absolutely need repair, no doubt about it. One of the things that I'm looking at is the current budget, and I'm working on a post to put on my Facebook page, looking back a few years of how much money is in the budget for maintenance. This budget that for 2022, 2023 looks like they want to spend about 1.1% of their budget on maintenance. It's great. Yeah, it's great to have new schools, but what are we going to do to maintain them? Because are we going to be going down this trap again several years in the future? Are we spending enough to maintain what we have? That's a concern of mine. Is something that I want to dig into a little bit more. Are these schools that we're building? I mean, we have estimates of how much it'll cost, but I haven't seen the estimate of how much it'll be to run them and maintain them, because that's a future cost that we're going to have to pay. Once we build it, you have to cool it, you have to heat it, and you have to maintain it. How much is that going to cost? So more things I'd like to dig into as we move forward. But it's going to be very important for people to get good information on this bond in November. I'm sorry, for this bond for next week. It's interesting that the bond is on the primary ballot and not the general ballot, but I think that was a decision that someone made. There's usually more voter turnout for a general rather than a primary.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with the listeners?
Well,
because I had a few other questions here, but you answered as you were answering another question, and that's fine.
So, real quick, it's very important to know what a school board is supposed to do. The school board is responsible for hiring and evaluating the superintendent. The school board only has one employee, the superintendent. So if a member of the public comes to me, let's say I'm on the board, and say, well, I have a problem with teacher so-and-so, really you have to go through the principal and go through that. If there's something extraordinary, then your school board rep can influence, but really we only have one employee. The school board has the responsibility to set and approve the budget. So the superintendent will recommend a budget, and then the school board says yay or nay. So it's very, very, very important to have people on the board who are willing to question.
Yeah. One
of the things that we, as a project manager, we're called healthy skeptics, where, I'm not asking questions to get, got you or to embarrass you, but we need to know why. And the school board needs to dig into the whys so we can go to the public and say, this is why we're spending your money, our money, taxpayers' money. The school board is also have the authority to adopt and review curriculum. So if there's something that you don't like being taught, the school board has the authority to say, we want to teach X instead of Y. That's a big deal. And then policies within the school system, the school board has a responsibility to develop and adopt policies. I'm looking at the school board has several committees: a legislative committee, a policy committee, a facilities naming committee, and a historically underutilized business committee. If you look at the makeup of these committees, and again, I want to stay away from Democrat, Republican, because I believe the school board should be partisan.
Me
but
too.
The majority of all these committees have almost no Republican or conservative representation. That's because of the makeup of the board. It should be more balanced, and hopefully at this election cycle, we'll have things a bit more balanced. But again, parents vote for a school board member, and the school board members represent their interest on the board. And again, it's very important to pay attention to who is on the board, because the school board has tremendous authority, tremendous responsibility, and everyone pays property taxes, either directly or indirectly. And the largest allocation for the Guilford County Board of Commissioners is education, between Guilford County Schools, GTCC, and then payment on the education debt. So it's very important to pay attention to who's on the school board, whether you have children in school or not.
Yep. Because, people are like, well, I don't have children in school. I was like, well, do you own a house? Because you own property taxes. Or
do you want to own a house someday? Because, the Board of Commissioners, well, the school board doesn't have the taxing authority, but the county commissioners do. So at some point in time, we may or may not have to raise taxes, property taxes. I mean, they have that responsibility. But since the schools are the largest budget allocation for the county commissioners, it's important to make sure that the schools are run as efficiently as possible to keep tax rates as low as possible.
One other thing I had to ask you, and I forgot what it was. Oh, because usually when they raise taxes, they're not going to go back down. And so, not only are you going to be paying for this and I'm paying for this, but your kids.
Right.
And, your grandkids. So, folks, I'd like to just share my screen real quick. And I wanted to show you Tim's website. That way, if you would like to donate to his campaign or have more to learn more about him, you can find him. So here's my website, Chrissy Smith. If you go over here to Grassroots Candidates, you will see Tim's information right here, and you can read a little bit about him. And then down here, if you click this link, it will take you to his website. So let me move this over here to the side.
Yep.
It's a nice picture. Tells a little bit about, what he's running for. And, he's all about transparency. There's a picture of his son graduating from Southwest. Yep. And picture of his comrades in the military.
Let me add to that picture. These are not just comrades. These are my brothers.
Your brothers. I like it.
Yeah. So the large one in the middle is my fraternal twin brother. He retired after 24 years. I did 26. And then the gentleman all the way on your left is my younger brother, Neil. If you notice carefully, he has a Purple Heart. He was wounded in Fallujah on his second tour, but he's fine now. So combined, we have about 67 years of Marine Corps experience total, and very proud of that. Now, the second generation, I have a nephew who's active duty Navy now, another nephew who just got out of the Marine Corps, and we want to keep this thing going.
Nice, nice. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share on your website with us?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, a lot of the bullet points that we've talked about are on the website. I'm far more active on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, it's at Tim Andrew for BOE. So there's a lot of posts we put out there. I'm also working on my Instagram page. Yep, there you go. Yeah, try to keep that up to date. And I look forward to people coming out to vote for me on next week, next Tuesday. The election's coming by quickly, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you chatting with us today, and we look forward to having you on the ballot in the November election, because we really need you and all of your expertise in project management, so that we can get a hold on how our money is being spent.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.